Well, hey friends, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast for women who want to find freedom in both their life and in their business. I own a multi-7-figure-a-year coaching business. I'm also a certified life coach. So I have the honor of helping thousands of women every single month make money in the online space and help them to get unstuck from whatever is holding them back, all without sacrificing their faith or their family. In this show, you're going to get the very best life and business advice, always with a healthy dose of Jesus. So buckle in, my friend. I'm so excited that you are here. Well, hey friends, this is Jennifer. This is podcast episode number 325. How are you? It's January. It's a new year. I am kind of getting back into the swing of work since before Christmas, really. And I like my team to take off a full week between Christmas and New Year's. I take off 3 or 4 days even before Christmas. And then as soon as we got back to work, I went to the mastermind that I belong to in Scottsdale. And then it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And then it just feels, I'm like, wait a second, did we have Christmas? Does anybody else feel like that? Is it just me? Like everything feels like a blur. And so here I am just thinking, okay, I'm kind of back to work today. It's kind of the first day back to work in like 3.5 to 4 weeks. I had 2 days where I worked solid before the mastermind I went to, but then I just feel kind of out of sorts. So this podcast could be rambling. If you are not into rambling, probably a good time to turn it off. And by the way, did you guys know we've hit over 5 million downloads? Over 5 million downloads of the Jennifer Allwood Show. I think I already said that in another episode, but it just reached my mind again. And I just want to thank you guys again, because we don't do any ads to advertise my podcast. So it's not like we're trying to get it in front of people by spending a lot of money. This is just 5 million downloads because you guys are faithful listeners, because you send an episode to your sister who starts listening, or your best friend and she starts listening, or your neighbor and she starts listening. And so I can't thank you enough. Thank you for sharing my podcast on your Instagram stories. Thank you for going and leaving reviews. Thank you for all of the things. 5 million, it feels pretty darn good, to be real honest with you. And the podcast is 5 years old next month. So thank you. Thank you. All right. So the topic for my episode today is I want to tell you a little bit about the Wellspring Mastermind that I attended in Scottsdale last week. And I want to tell you, not because it's something that you're, wanting to join or even able to go join or anything like that, but I want to tell you just because I think there's so much power, you guys, in just getting out of your day to day and going to be in an environment with like-minded people. And it changes things. It changes me. And it made me just really want to do another episode. I know that I've done episodes in the past on, the value of joining a mastermind. And I've told you guys all about my mastermind, but I don't know if I've petitioned you to figure out a group you can join. Okay. Because there's something that shifted in me last week. And it was interesting because Jason was there with me. And there was something that shifted for us as a couple. And even now, just talk about it, I feel like I'm on the verge of tears. I feel like my voice is going to break. And I'm not sure why. And I'm probably not going to tell you some of the more intimate details about the mastermind, simply because they were intimate. And, but there were lives that were changed in that room. And I want you to know, I've been in a mastermind for 9 years. I have. I can remember I was in Sandy Krakowski's inner circle where she was teaching people how to do Facebook ads and Facebook in general 9 years ago. And I jumped from her $47 a month group to her $25,000 a year mastermind 9 years ago in a matter of 3 months. And the reason I did that is because I saw Sandy's business. I saw how much influence she had, and impact she had, and income she had without working herself into a tizzy. She never preached or taught about hustle. It was something different. And so I wanted something that she had. So I was in her mastermind for years. Then I was in Stu McLaren's mastermind for years. Stu is, he's like the king of mentorships and the king of monthly membership groups. And it was such a phenomenal, I think I was there for 3.5 years. The group that I was with, what I learned from him, the things that we did together. Then I was in Brooke's mastermind. So it was Brooke Thomas and Lisa Bevere. They had the Queen's Table. And now I'm in Pete's Wellspring. And I'm saying that to say, I haven't hopped from group to group to group because none of those masterminds were great, because every single one of them, phenomenal. Every single one of them, very different. But I think, when your season's up, and then there's also just, when I needed something different, I felt like I needed to shift to something else. So, Pete's Wellspring group it's a brand new mastermind. And that's the one that I've been in now for the last, 6 months or so. And one of the things that I love about any mastermind, at least that I've been a part of, is that I really do believe that rising tides lift all ships. I love that saying, because when you get around other people who are doing things, when they're a moving and a shaking, and they've got different skill sets in you, it does something, like it ignites something inside of you that makes you, want to do things differently or get better in certain areas or really lean into certain parts of your business or shut something down. And so, is it expensive to be in a mastermind? Absolutely. Usually it is. But you know what also is expensive? Staying stuck and being isolated and doing your business alone. That also is expensive. And I was thinking about, like, one of the other reasons that I love masterminds is because, you have to usually leave your home. Masterminds are like in-person events. And I think that we have gotten to where, we are super comfortable with the online space these days and doing everything online. And I think we've already started to see it. There's really a shift going back to, okay, we had to do business this way for a couple of years. Now we don't have to anymore. And people are craving face-to-face meetups. Yes, even us introverts. Because, by the way, don't forget, I'm a complete introvert. So when I leave my house to go to a mastermind event, or insert 3-day workshop, or 2-day live event, or insert whatever, but it allows for me to really turn off the day-to-day, the grind of things. It allows me to say no to all the meeting invites and things for those couple of days. It's good to turn off the day-to-day. Can I just say that for any of you who might be listening and you're like, I would love to join something, but I just don't have the time. Listen, if you think that the day-to-day is what's going to grow your business and take you to the next level, you're completely wrong. It is not you packing, shipping boxes today. That's not going to change your life. It's not you responding to emails today that's going to change your business. It's not you being in your DMs this afternoon that's going to make a huge impact and change your business. What I think does change your business is when you're able to turn off the day-to-day and put yourself in an environment where dreaming is normal, where focus is, a big part of it. You're able to focus totally on just what you're doing right there in the moment, where you're able to meet like-minded people, where you're able to hear different perspectives. And every mastermind I've ever been a part of has pampering as almost like a part of what it is, right? So really good food. We always stay at really nice hotels. There's always gifts. There's always excursions. There's always fun things to do. And friendships have come out of every single one of those masterminds. And so I want to tell you just a little bit about Pete's, just so you could kind of understand some of the takeaway. Pete has done a phenomenal job of putting together a group like none other. And listen, it is quite likely that some of you may be listening to my podcast today and you are not part of a mastermind, but maybe you were at one time, but you've been thinking about starting your own. And I want you to listen from that angle too, okay? Because I think anytime you look at joining a mastermind or starting a mastermind, you need to figure out what's the common thread going to be. Because in Wellspring, it is everybody that is there is making at least 7 figures a year. So it's at least $1 million a year or 8 figures a year. And they're all believers. What I love too is that it's not surfacey faith. It's a different level. And I love that. All right. One of the things that I love about the Wellspring that I have not seen included in any of my other masterminds that I've belonged to is that spouses are not only able to come, but are encouraged to come. And we don't talk a whole lot about business. And the truth is, this is mind blowing, but it's like, duh, of course. But if we already make 7 or 8 figures a year, like what do we know? We know business. We know how to make money. But I love that one of the things that Pete wants us to focus on this mastermind is making money matter. And I love that. So the focus is really like accountability to excel in other areas of our life besides just business. And I love that. If you're thinking about starting a mastermind, listen, the focus doesn't have to just be content, or strategy, or money. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I love that in his mastermind and a lot of the other ones that I've been a part of, we do things that can be a little bit scary together. This time we took a hot air balloon ride. We were in Scottsdale, Arizona. We took a van ride to like up in the Cave Creek area. Jason and I own a house in Fountain Hill, so it wasn't in that direction. So I don't know where we were. So we're just going to say we were just in the Phoenix area, okay, the Scottsdale area. But we took these trucks out and we took a hot air balloon ride. And by the way, that was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. The balloon ride was incredible. We landed in a dog park. Oh my gosh, guys, if you're not following me on Instagram stories, you're missing that. And if you're like, I used to see your stories all the time and I don't anymore, then go in and like change your notifications so you get notified every time I do stories. Because every time I talk about something like the pandemic, how I feel about the COVID vaccinations, how I feel about never seeing my children in a mask again. Every time I do that on Instagram, then all of my stories get throttled back. They just do. You can't convince me otherwise because I've watched the numbers. We watch them very closely. And if I do anything where they slap the COVID tag on it, then I get my hand slapped by way of reach on my Instagram stories. The way around that is for you to go in and change your notifications so you get notified every time I do a story. But anyway, we landed a hot air balloon, you guys, in a dog park cul-de-sac. It was amazing. And up in that hot air balloon ride, I had an incredible business conversation with Sean Cannell. By far has the leading company, I believe, online for teaching people how to do YouTube and how to start their YouTube channel and monetize their YouTube channel. So we had incredible business conversations, 7,000 feet in the sky. Right. And what I love too about this mastermind is it really makes me think, and it makes me think about what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is it worth continuing to do it? Is it working, et cetera? We had Bob Goff was one of our guest speakers this time. What's really interesting about Pete Vargas is he has connections like I've never seen anybody have connections. It still blows my mind. He knows people from all areas of business, from all walks of life. He's a connector. And you know what? And the Lord was really showing me while I was in his mastermind, Jennifer, you're a connector too. I'm just not to Pete's level yet, but I do know a lot of people too. And that's really cool. But Bob Goff was one of our guest speakers because him and Pete know each other. And he asked some of the most interesting questions. And I thought I would share 2 of those with you today. And this is why I came back like a changed person. It's stuff like this. But one of the questions was, instead of asking people like, hey, how you doing? He said, what would happen if we asked people instead, hey, what does it feel like to be you right now? Oh, that's weird, isn't it? Isn't that heavy? So we have dinner at our house a lot on Saturday nights. Jason and I go to church a lot on Saturday nights. We are not, what is it called? It's like Seventh something Advent people. I guess they go to church on Saturday nights. We go to a non-denominational church. It's had Saturday night services available for years. When our kids were babies, we started going on Saturday nights just so we could all sleep in on Sundays. And we've just never gotten out of the habit. So Saturday nights, a lot of times we go to church, and then we sometimes we'll come back to our house for dinner. So we had people over Saturday night, and I was asking our friends about that question, like, what does it feel like to be you right now? And that is such a hard question to answer, you guys. Isn't that a hard question to answer? And because it requires like this level of a vulnerability, it requires you to like kind of think about an answer. And it requires you to do like some heart and head checks, which I promise you will show up in your business. So it's a mastermind for like business people, but we're talking about like, what's it feel like to be you right now? I mean, that just is mind blowing to me. Another question Bob Goff asked that I would encourage those of you who are type A, driven entrepreneurs, such as myself, is to ask your spouse, if you're married, and or your children, how is my life working for you right now? Whoa, right? How is my life working for you right now? I still have to have this whole conversation with Jason, by the way. But it was things like that we walked away with, Jason and I did, from the mastermind, that was just mind-blowing. And we had worship. We had a pastor give an entire sermon. We had people that were having a changed relationship with Christ. The Holy Spirit was present. It was an amazing, amazing time. And I want to just tell you and leave you with just a couple of thoughts about you finding some sort of a group to belong in this year. And by the way, I know of people who have free like masterminds. They're not able to do some of the same things, that you can do in a paid one, but there are people that do free masterminds and they're more like a peer led. Okay. But here's what I know. There is power in numbers. So just getting a group of people together, I think we had 100 and some people there. There's power in place. And I was thinking, as I was just scribbling down some notes for this podcast, I was thinking about how the Bible talks about when we get married, we're supposed to leave and cleave, right? Because place matters. And so I think that there's something so powerful about leaving your day to day where you usually are, getting in a car and driving, hopping on a plane and flying, whatever it is. The Bible talks so often about like the change of locations. And I'm convinced that new environments set us up for new things. I really am. I think that sometimes, there's some things that have to break in order to get a breakthrough. And a lot of times things have to break by you changing where you are physically located so you can see things from a different perspective, because it'll change how you see. So I know there's power in numbers. I know there's power in place. I know there's power in proximity. If you need a breakthrough, get around other people who are having breakthroughs. If you need your business to grow, get around other people whose businesses are growing. By the way, Jason and I have one of the smallest businesses in that room. We do. There's people in there making, hundreds of millions of dollars a year. We're not. We're not even close to that level. But I know about the power of proximity, not in a gross way, so that we can leverage people in that room for our own business. Like that isn't even on anybody's radar. I just know that there are people in that room who have a mantle that I want to be near. There are people in that room who have giftings and anointings that I want on my own life. There are people in that room who have favor in areas that Jason and I need favor in. And if you watch my Instagram stories, Jason experienced a healing miracle in his hip at that mastermind last week. And it's still really fresh. It's still really tender. And I'm still a little bit nervous to talk about it, not going to lie. Because he's had excruciating pain for 18 months every day. And to have a pain level of 1 out of 10 now he's on day 8 or 9 now in a row is, it's insane. We are insanely grateful. There were people praying over him and us the first night. And it was wild, you guys. And the Lord used one of the guys in the mastermind to lay hands on Jason and do some work on his hip. My husband woke up healed. Or got up and was healed. We're thinking about doing a podcast episode on that. Clearly, I have to get some control over my emotions first before I do that, so I don't just bawl my head off the whole time. But I'm ridiculously grateful for Pete and just setting up an environment where faith is not just accepted, but faith is encouraged. Prayer is not just allowed, but prayer is like a part of what we do in that mastermind. And it made me want to come back and make even some shifts in the mastermind that I run. I run a mastermind for 60 women. And I'm sitting here blowing my nose on a podcast. And I'm praying that some of the women in there are not just having breakthrough in their businesses, but they're having breakthrough in their life too. And I'm praying, and my team is thinking through, like, are we promoting and providing an arena inside of this mastermind for the Lord really to come and do what the Lord wants to do? And so, that's something we're thinking through. Not that I'm changing things in my mastermind to like have, couples and spouses and things, because I'm not called to that. My focus is totally different. I have only women in my mastermind. It's women who are trying to get to their first 6 figures online or to their first 7 figures online. It's a much lower price point. It is a group of women that loves Jesus, but the focus is definitely business strategy and then one-on-one access to me and my team. But it was such an incredible event that it made me think, how can I just deliver it even at a higher level to the women who are in my mastermind? How can I, just continue to provide a playground for the Lord to come and do what the Lord wants to do in terms of like bringing people together in a room so that we can pray over both life and business and watch miracles happen. So I'll be talking to Jason, and him and I are, contemplating doing a podcast episode about the healing that happened in his hip. Complete transparency, just being totally, totally transparent. My husband had a cycling accident 18 months ago, that broke his hip. He had surgery on Father's Day, tested positive for COVID, was put in immediate isolation. We had to leave. I don't know if I've ever actually said that publicly. I think it's probably highly frowned upon that I share that, but the truth is the truth is the truth. So was kicked out of the hospital. Jason had to go through that hip surgery by himself, was in the hospital completely by himself. It was a crock of crap because he'd had COVID like 7 weeks prior to that, but was still testing positive. It was just a whole thing. Then 6 months later, he had a full hip replacement because the first surgery did not work. He has had injection after injection after injection, you guys. So there's part of me that's like, oh man, do I do a podcast when I'm still nervous? Because I'm like, Lord, this is a complete healing forever, right? And so anyway, that's stuff I still need to work out with Jesus. But I'll talk to Jason about doing that podcast episode because I think it would encourage some of you. So listen, some of you need to get in a mastermind, whether it is mine, whether it is Susie Q's up the street, whether it's Sally's down the road, I don't care. But some of you have got to get in a room where you're able to look at things from a different perspective, where you're able to ask different questions, where you're able to be around people who have something that you need. Not so you can just mooch off them, by the way, but so that you can also add something to the conversation and add something to the room. Some of you won't even join a business group because you're afraid you're going to have one of the smallest businesses in the room. Listen, friends, this is no time for ego. This is no time for like that broken thinking. Change happens when we are around like-minded people. There's power in numbers, especially when it's like-minded people, and there's that faith component. There's power in place when you pick up and you leave your home and you go and you do a live meetup. Like we're having our next live meetup for my mastermind. It's in April in Nashville. I'm having Dr. Shannon Irvine come speak. She does, I always am like, do I use big words? She does like brain stuff, like with success and neurology, and she understands the brain and success and Christianity and how the Bible and chemistry, how they literally line up, and so how we can rewire our brains for success. She's going to be one of my speakers. Adrienne Richardson, who's a dear friend of mine, whose specialty is Facebook ads and Instagram ads. She's going to be speaking at my event. Christy Wright. Many of you will remember her as a Ramsey personality. Christy has gone off on her own and is a personal friend of mine, and just has an incredible testimony, story, business. She is now helping women speak on stages and what have you. And so those are like the guests that I have in my mastermind. We're not even doing my own mastermind in my own town. We are going to Nashville, and I can't wait to do that. And so listen, it is worth every dollar for you to get in a room with people who are going to lift you higher, who are going to pray you higher, who are going to elevate you higher, who are going to teach you how to go higher. It is worth every single dollar that a group may cost you. And so, if Pete Vargas just happens to be listening to this on the craziest chance, I'm just forever grateful that you have put together a group such as this. If you are a woman who is still wanting to make her first 6 figures, or you've made 6 figures, but you really want to figure out now how do you scale it to 7 figures, you can go fill out information to get on my wait list if you want for my mastermind. It's called Creators Next Level. You can go to creatorsnextlevel.com/application and fill out the information there just to be notified when we're open again. But listen, get in some group. It is worth it. It is worth it. So I hope that made sense today. There was a part of me that wanted to go into like all these different things that happened in the mastermind, but then there was this other part of me that was like, you know what? Some of that was just it felt so holy and so precious that I didn't want to overshare. I do want to share about Jason's healing. And so I will talk to him about doing that. Send me a DM on Instagram if you would be interested in that podcast. That would help me. And I'll try to make sure that I get my emotions under control before we do it. And if you're interested in my mastermind, of course, you can send me a DM on Instagram as well and give you information about the next time we'll open. So the bottom line is get around some people who are either doing what you want to do or who have what you need so that you can do what you're called to do, or who have a common thread to you so that you can all do things together. Okie dokie. All right, friends, bless you. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you come back for every episode and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Every time I see you guys post about it on Instagram or Facebook or something, it just makes me do a little happy. So thank you. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you never want to miss an episode. So you can go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or any of the other podcasting places and subscribe each week so that every week you get the new episode when it releases. So just know that I love bringing you relevant content. I love bringing you great guests. And one of the ways you can help us here at Team Allwood is by leaving the podcast a review. So if you have just a second to do that, would you go over and leave a review for the Jennifer Allwood Show? Thank you again. You're amazing. I'm honored to be here. Until next week. Bye-bye.